All right. Hello there, everybody. Thank you for joining me for today's workout. It's not really going to be much of a workout, for real. It's going to be mostly hip flexibility, mobility, and some core work. For those of us who sit for long periods of time or are running long distances, any muscle imbalances that may come up, this is a good flow to kind of help you out with that. So, and if you like the video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and go to nolanfit.com for more good action. So we're going to start out with feet wider than hip width apart and your hands posting behind you. And we're just going to rotate one knee down to the side at a time. Just going with a gentle range of motion and just kind of feeling what's going on in your hips as you go through it. And while you're doing this, you can kind of like think happy thoughts. Yeah. Cool. After you do that a few times, just kind of warming up the muscles through your hip complex, we'll stop and straighten out both legs in front of you. So flexing your toes towards you and pushing the backs of your knees down into the ground. We're going to inhale, raising both hands up over your head, and then exhale to fold to grab onto your toes and just let your forehead drop down towards your knees. If reaching your toes isn't an option right now, you can always slide your hands underneath your calves, pull your heart forwards, and then gently angle down. Whatever variation you're going for, we're just going to gently stretch your hamstrings and the muscles through your lower, mid, and upper back. Taking a deep breath with a long exhale. Reaching up past your toes, coming all the way back up. We'll exhale, hands down by your sides. Cool. Bringing the soles of your feet together. I'm just going to kind of walk your butt towards your heels or your heels towards your butt until we're coming just about as far as you can. We're going to clasp your fingers around your toes and then flap those butterfly wings. And believe it or not, this is the stretch. So what we're doing is stretching all the muscles down in your inner thighs and hips. You can kind of go rock side to side if that feels better. You can pretend that you're a big, beautiful butterfly trying to fly away into outer space. And you can tell by the way that I speak that I spend a lot of time talking to my kids about this sort of stuff. So we'll do a few more of these little movements, just kind of opening stuff up. And then leaving your hands clasped around your toes, we're going to inhale, lengthen through your spine, and then draw your elbows out to the sides as you gently pull your forehead down towards your toes. And try and kiss those little piggies. Squeal, 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 pig. Inhale deeply down here, just kind of noticing where the stretch goes. And then leading with the heart, floating all the way back up. And then we can release your toes and come to laying down flat on your back on the mat. So lots of us who are running long distances, you feel that pain ever in the front of your hips. That's usually from your quads doing most of the work and your hip flexors being tight from just life, and your glutes and hamstrings not really taking up the slack. So we're going to bend your knees with your feet flat on the floor so that your fingertips can just about touch your heels. And then with your feet parallel with your hips, so not like out to either side on the mat, but just right underneath your hips, we're going to push off your feet to raise your hips up towards the sky. This is a bridge. So squeezing as high as you can so you feel that stretch across the front part of your thigh. Butt and hamstrings are very active and engaged, and then lowering down slowly. Let's do 4 more of those for 5 total. Each time that you press up, squeezing the butt and hamstrings high enough that you feel that stretch in there. And again, kind of going at your own pace here. You can follow me exactly or loosely. And we want to try and keep your knees in line with your hips, so your legs aren't splaying out to the sides or your knees aren't touching, but we just kind of have that little space going on in there. So let's do 2 more. Nice, keep that good strong bridge coming all the way up. And then last one. Squeezing as high up as you can. Again, keeping that core strong while you're doing it. And then lowering on back. Cool. Here we're going to hug both knees into your chest, give a little rock side to side. And this is a good one too. Rocking side to side with your hands on your knees. You can massage the muscles in your lower back and your butt just using your body weight to do so. So by kind of making big circles, you can get obviously a bigger surface area. And then when you find an area that's kind of tight, you can just kind of pause and do what I call milking it. So we're milking the stretch. So it just means rolling back and forth over the one part that feels tight. If you haven't switched directions yet, we'll switch directions. And then coming back to center, we're going to straighten out your left leg along the floor. So pushing your left heel away from you and flexing your foot towards you, we're going to put your left hand on your right knee, this one up here, and then gently pulling that leg across until your knee is just about level with the floor, if not touching the floor. And we're going to take your right arm out to the side and let that just be a weight to initiate the stretch through your lower back and hips. So now that you're in this position, we're going to hold it for a little bit. And I want you to just play around with your breath work. So inhaling deeply and exhaling completely. And by complete exhale just means pushing all the air out of your body. And then just noticing how the breath changes the stretch and where it changes the stretch. So we'll do 2 or 3 more breaths here. And then when you're ready, slowly making your way onto your back again. Hugging both knees into your chest. Give that little rock side to side. And then we'll straighten out your right leg along the floor. And with your right hand, we're going to pull your left knee across your body. Let me turn the microphone. All the way through. And then your left arm reaches out to the side. Just letting that left arm be heavy. And your right arm is keeping that leg in place, but you're not twisting it down. It's just the weight of your leg. So think this is a gentle stretch. This is a good stretch for me. And nothing is like overly hurting while you're doing this. We'll take 2 more breaths here. And then slowly making your way onto your back. Put the microphone back on. Okay. And then we'll hug both knees into your chest again. All right, from here we're going to plant those heels back down on the ground. And we're going to straighten out your left leg along the floor and raise your right hand over your head. So from this position, we're going to raise your left foot up and try and touch your toes with your right hand so your shoulder blade raises up off the floor, and then lower it all the way back down just above the ground and then come up and touch again. So I like to call these hand to foot crunches because you're crunching your hand to your foot. We'll go 10 of these on each side. There's 6. There's 7. 8, 9, and 10. Cool. Then we'll just switch sides. Straight your right leg along the floor, raising your left arm over your head, and then same deal, crunching up to touch your toes. 10 times. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Yay! Once you've done those, grab your knees. We're going to roll over to the side and push yourself up onto hands and knees. Now with your hands underneath your shoulders and knees pretty much directly underneath your hips, we're going to go for a hip mobilization thing. So, bring your right leg out to the side. I've got 3/4 so you can kind of see what I'm doing. So we're going to bring your right leg out to the side like you're a dog peeing on a fire hydrant. Straighten your leg straight back behind you. Kick your piano. Bring your knee to your elbow and then repeat that motion. So we're basically just rolling all the way through the ball and socket joint. We'll go for 10 of these rotations on each side. And while you're doing it, think about trying to keep your shoulders level with the ground. So as you bring your leg out to the side, you're not collapsing through your upper body. It's just the muscles on the side of your thigh rolling all the way through. Once you've done your 10th one, release and come all the way back down onto all fours, and same thing on the other side. So bring that left leg out to the side, straightening it out behind you, and then bring your knee towards your elbow. And maybe you notice that one side is easier than the other one, or maybe something feels kind of like tight. And just kind of observe that and see if you can do any variations within it to kind of make it right for you, you know? So you can play around with it. It doesn't have to look exactly like mine, so long as you're getting that ball and socket joint moving through the full range of motion. And we'll do one more time. That's like maybe 10. And then we'll come back onto hands and knees. Going to bring your knees out to either side of the mat with your big toes just about touching and go all the way back down into your child's pose. So we're going to gently push with your hands to push your bum down towards your heels and walk your fingertips out in front of you and let your forehead drop down toward the ground. Taking in a few breaths here. And then rolling forwards, we're going to reach your hands out a little bit further in front of you. Spread your fingertips really wide on the mat. Curl under your toes. And we're going to come into a downward facing dog. So it's not really like a downward dog today. We're going to kind of pedal your heels, stretch through the muscles in your calves. And then your hamstrings. Just kind of focusing on one leg at a time. We'll do one or two more. Heels down. And then come on back. So the next thing that we're going to do is a downward dog alternating hand to foot exercise. If you feel like your wrist's starting to get kind of tight, come out of it. Stop, rest for a second, you shake out your wrists, and then resume. Over time, it'll become easier and easier, and your wrists will get strong enough to handle that. Another fun trick is to press your fingertips down into the mat. Kind of takes the weight off of your wrist joint. So, taking your downward dog like so, we're going to touch right hand to left toes, left hand to right toes. And we're just going to go side to side like that for 20 reps, approximately. Just breathe while you're going through it. Try to keep your legs as straight as can be while you're doing it. So it's a core exercise, it's a shoulder exercise, and more importantly, it's a great stretch for your calves, hamstrings, and hips. And I totally lost count, but I'm thinking that's got to be somewhere around 20, also because my shirt is about to fall off over my head, and that's a different type of video. Okay. Next thing that we're going to do is more hip mobility madness. So, like how we started with your feet wider than hip width apart, we're going to drop both knees down to one side. So you got this kind of like really fun shape going on. And we're just going to gently push down into your left thigh here. So right leg is in front of me, left foot is behind me. I'm gently pushing down on my left thigh. Inhale into a really straight spine. And then exhale and twist to turn over your right shoulder. Inhale into a straight spine. Exhale and twist to look over your right. One more time, inhaling tall. Exhaling to twist. And then switching sides. So just rotating down. So my right leg is now behind me. Left leg is in front of me. I'm going to put both hands on my right thigh and gently push down. So I'm creating that length through my spine and just kind of anchoring that right hip down into the mat. Inhale into a tall spine and then exhale and twist to look over your right shoulder. Over your left. Yeah, over your left shoulder. Inhale tall, exhale to twist. Inhale tall, exhale twist. And it's cool, if you just kind of take the gaze to your left, you kind of naturally go a little bit deeper. Slowly rotating back to center. And then coming on out. Cool. Coming back onto hands and knees, we're going to go for a little bit of pigeon pose. So pigeon pose in yoga is pigeon pose, but it's really good for stretching out everything all along through here on your hips. So what we're going to do is come into your downward facing dog, and we're going to bring your left leg through. So we're kind of draping your left leg across the mat. Left knee is down, and we're going to wiggle your right foot back behind you. So we're getting your hips as close down to the ground as we can. From here, we're going to inhale, lengthen out through your spine, and then exhale, just gently walking yourself down to resting on either your elbows or your forehead on the ground, or if you got a big, fluffy full body anime pillow, you can hug that. Wherever we are, we're just going to feel that stretch through your left butt, through your left hip. Wherever you're feeling it, you're feeling it. And we'll hang out here for a few breaths. And as you start to relax into the stretch a little bit deeper, you can kind of come down a little bit lower to the ground. We'll stay here for about 3 more breaths. Slowly walking yourself up. We're going to bend that back knee so your back foot goes off the ground. And then you can post your right hand down on the mat and reach behind with your left hand to kind of grab onto that ankle and stretch through your right hip flexor. And always just kind of playing around with the orientation of your body. So if you twist and look to your right, it changes the stretch. If you twist to look to your left, it changes the stretch. So you can kind of play around with that to find the area where you're getting the most beneficial stretch through your hip flexor. Wiggle your toes, and then slowly release that back leg to come down, and we'll make your way all the way back into your downward facing dog. Just take a second to kind of pedal out through your hips and your heels. You can shake your head. Then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So bringing your right leg through into that pigeon pose, and then moving your left leg back until you come down just about as deep as feels good. And one side is usually tighter than the other one. So just kind of being aware of that and, not pushing too hard into the stretch, but just finding a point where you're like, okay, I'm getting a good stretch, and that's awesome. Once you find your position, we can come down to the rest on your elbows, your huge anime pillow, or your hands. And we'll hang out here about the same amount of time as the last time we did this. Hopefully it's enough time to open up your hips and kind of stretch that stuff out. And as you settle down, just kind of visualizing which part of your body is feeling the tightest here. If you have one part of your body that's like, whoa, just observe that and kind of bring your attention to it. And as you inhale, try to draw a breath so deep that you can feel the breath changing that stretch. And as you exhale, try and soften down into it. We'll stay here for about 3 more breaths. And then when you're ready, we're going to slowly walk yourself back up. And then we're going to bend your back knee and reach behind with your right hand to try and grab onto that ankle. Cool. So in this position, we're going to just gently stretch that left hip flexor. And playing around with the orientation of the stretch. So looking over one shoulder, take a look over the other, and just seeing how that, and then you can find that point where you're like, ooh, wow, yeah, okay, I'm getting a great stretch in my hip flexor. That's awesome. That's going to help me in my life. And if it doesn't feel good, just ease out of it and back out. Whenever you're ready to release, slowly come on out of it. And we're going to make your way all the way back into your downward facing dog. Taking your time to get there, kind of pedaling out through one heel after the other. And maybe just feeling a difference from one side to the next. Cool. We're going to come down onto your forearms on the ground, and we're going to hold a forearm plank for 60 seconds. So with your elbows about hip width, shoulder width apart, we're going to curl under your toes, and we'll start in 3, 2, 1, holding your plank. So as you hold the plank, you don't want to have your butt going too high up to the sky, but you want to have nice level body with the floor. And then pushing your heart away from the floor, so you're not collapsing through your shoulder blades, but everything is staying very strong, active, and engaged. Pushing out through the heels and the crown of your head, so you're constantly trying to make your body as tall as can be. And we got 30 seconds left. If it starts feeling difficult, think about inhaling deeply, and then as you exhale, tuck your belly button into your spine. So really tightening out through your core. 15 seconds to go. Nice. Keep holding strong. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you're done. Cool. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I sure did. I hope your hips feel looser. I hope your core is a little bit stronger. Again, if you liked the video, hit subscribe, hit like, and share it with literally everybody that you know. Go to nolanfit.com or nolanindemnity.com for family health, which equals family wealth. All right, see you guys later.